Definition I found online, I had to look it up myself to find out what an architect does. But basically we create spaces, right? Spaces for people, whether it's a school, a hospital, a restaurant. I myself do a lot of restaurants, a lot of restaurant grocery stores. And we pretty much put together the concepts for it. And, you know, in simple terms, I always like to say is, you know, as architects, we're the ones that develop the instructions on how to build something. So I'm sure everybody here has built Legos, right? It comes with a little booklet. Somebody had to put together that booklet, right? Somebody had to draw those diagrams, show you step by step on how something is built. It's the same kind of concept with you know, simple like a house where you gotta create floor plans, elevations to show the person building it how it's gonna come together, right? So a little bit about myself. I'm Trent's dad. I'm his soccer coach. I'm his favorite soccer player, right? I went to University of Illinois in Chicago, downtown. I got a master's in architecture, which was a 6-year program, so a 4-year bachelor degree. You had to stay 2-year master's, because in order to be an architect, a practicing architect, you need to have a license. In order to get a license, you need at least either a bachelor's degree, 5-year bachelor's degree, or a 2-year master's degree in architecture. After I graduated college, I went to work for a firm because you need to build up pretty much 2 years of working under a licensed architect in order to become an architect yourself. After those 2 years, I was able to, I was eligible to take the exams. And after college, after you do all that work in college, after you work for 2 years for a firm, then you got to take 9 exams. It's very hard to pass all 9 at once. I failed one exam I failed once, and you gotta wait a whole year to retake it. The whole process took me about 2 years, but I got all the 9 exams passed. I got my license. Currently I'm licensed, I believe, in 32 states across the country. And in 2010, me and a friend of mine started our own company called 2010 Architects. That's where we stand today. Next year we're gonna have our 10-year anniversary. Doing restaurants, commercial projects, and some houses. So today we're going to talk about this. This is my dream home. This is a house we purchased last year in Palos Park. You probably recognize the style a little. You guys learned about Frank Lloyd Wright and the Prairie style. Well, this is a little later on. This is in the 1950s. It was called the mid-century modern style, which kind of spun off the Prairie style. You got the large overhangs, the thick roof lines. What we did with this was this was a 3-bedroom, 2-bed home. I think it's a 1-bathroom. They got a bathroom in the garage, which is really weird. And what we're doing to this house is completely renovating it. We took off the roof, we put a whole 2nd-story addition. And I got some drawings here if you guys want to take a look at it. These tables, there's blueprints of the actual house that we used for construction. There's some concept rendering sketches. There's some, you'll see this yellow sheet of paper are sketches that I would put together at the dinner table, talking to Trent, stuff like that about it. So I'm going to take you guys through the process of what it took to be where we are today with this house, and at the end you'll see some pictures. So obviously step 1 is what? You're meeting with a client, right? The client's got some kind of program. They want to do 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. They want to do, you know, family room. My client was probably the most difficult client I ever had, which was Trent's sister and his mom. By far the hardest client to do. So it was a challenge. Plus, me myself as a client for my own house was pretty difficult. So that's the thing. Our program, which was, you know, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, so many baths, garage. They have some ideas. Usually they present us with, you know, I want this color. You know, I want these kinds of windows. I want this kind of roof line. I want this kind of style, right? Style of a house. You know, you see a lot of what I call cookie cutter houses around here. You know, somebody might like that style. There's contemporary style, right? There's prairie style you guys learned about. We talk about colors and budget, right? You guys are dealing with budget right now. That budget goes really, really, really quick, right? I know I saw some plans right there, pretty cool. It shows you what people are putting towards a budget. Well, the budget is probably one of the hardest things in architecture to try to keep intact while you're building your dream home. And we're seeing that as a family right now because I'm trying to go really, really cool with some stuff, and it's costing really, really cool money. You know, so you got to slow it down. So. Number 2 is code research. Have you guys learned about code research? There are certain rules and laws that you have to build to. So this is the IPC, which is the International Building Code, which tells you about size of doorways, size of hallways, and it varies between residences and schools. You know, schools, the reason that hallway is, I don't know, 6, 7 feet There's actually a reason for that. There's a code that says if there's in case of an emergency, you got X amount of people, they have to have enough space to get out. You see the doors are swinging out, right? If let's say there's a fire in a house and everybody runs to that door, last thing you want to do, you got a group of people pushing against you. You don't want to open the door in. That's why all egress doors swing out. Tons of rules, not only nationally, but locally too. Like in our case, our house was built too close to the property line, the existing house. So we had to apply for a special approval from the village to allow us to build that second story because the rules have changed throughout the years. So local ordinances will have, some ordinance tell you what color brick you have to use, you know, or you cannot use brick, or you have to use brick. We were pretty ugly enough to do that. So after you do all your code research, you got your program, then you start coming up with some ideas. You do sketches. That's what those. We call that bumwalk paper. Is the yellow stuff, where we you basically sketch it over. You overlay things on it, tracing it, just to get some ideas on paper to see what you're going to be working with. And there's some sketches that you guys are looking at. So I was trying to create some kind of a program how to make the flow work based on our needs, what we needed in that house. Then I throw it all on the computer. I start looking at what the house is going to look like from the outside. The top is what it looked like when we bought it. That's the old house. Actually, I forgot to bring, I had some original blueprints from 1954 for the house. I forgot to bring, but they're falling apart, so it would have been hard to pass around.
You could send me pictures.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Would you like to see the pictures? Okay.
And they're written like, not, these blueprints are today's world where we're doing everything on the computer. The old stuff I got was all done by hand on special paper and gets fed through this smelly machine that creates these blueprints. It's a pretty lengthy process. So on the bottom is like, a series of these slides just show different ideas that I was trying to come up with for the outside look. The thought process was I wanted to keep that mid-century modern look, which is the low slope, roof lines, heavy overhangs, basically taking that old house and lifting it up another story. So this was just a series of these different options that I did. We're playing with windows. This one with all these windows just scattered all over the place. Those are actually the Trent's and his sister's bedrooms up on that second level. So we're gonna have these full white windows. There's a little, this was one idea I had of a floor plan on the second story, which would have had this walkout balcony to the other bedrooms. This would have been a two-story living room where you could look on the balcony, but things change. As you go through it, you realize it's not a good plan. So I kept on trying with these sketches. I came up with better options. And this is what the house is going to look like. It's still under construction. The outside's down. We're working on the inside right now. So this is pretty much what the final product's going to look like from the original photo down here. This is some shots of when we started construction. On the right one right there is when we tore up all the roof. This is all that remained of that old house. This was a few months ago when we started painting the second story. Working on that now too. This was a little drone shot I took of when the roof was started getting framed in. And obviously, as an architect, you got to figure out this out. You got to figure out this right here spans all the way across, and it's holding up this roof and this roof. That beam is probably this thick, and there's three of them together. You have to know that as an architect. You got to figure out the loads. How is this going to stand when all the snow is sitting on top of that? And I just crossed my fingers, right? Hopefully they'll hold. No, there's structural calculations you do. I mean, you gotta just do some work and figure all that out. I think this is probably one of the latest photos we have with all the windows, and I think these windows are in now too. I just haven't had a chance to update my photo. So here I wanted to talk about, a lot of times you've probably seen it, right? Your dad buys some furniture. First thing he does, he looks at the instructions. What does he do? Toss them away, right? Then you hear him throwing tools because he can't figure it out. Well, it'd be pretty difficult in architecture to build something without a set of plans, right? So here's a series of shots that I found that are when you build things without planning, right? The door's too big to open. They had to cut it out to fit a toilet in it. Probably because the dimensions were taken off the wrong way, right? There's a balcony that leads to nowhere. No door, no window. Right? If you turn the plans upside down, this is what you get. This is actually a real house, right?
I know it is. I think we saw it, didn't we, guys?
Yeah.
And then this isn't a mistake. This is a real building. This is actually.
Cool.
I wanted to tell you guys that when you are building your dream home, get creative. I mean, the possibilities are endless. What you could do, this doesn't mean that a house has to look like this, right? I mean, you could do whatever you want. There's technology these days. I mean, there's people printing houses out of 3D printers. But actually, I just read an article that there's a machine that gets carried on site, and it's like a huge 3D printer where they feed concrete to it, and this thing just goes back and forth and starts building your house out of concrete. It could be like a 3D process. You could have a whole house built, right? There's houses being built off-site in a factory and being brought in. Did you ever see the train containers, which is one of my favorite things? Did you guys ever look at those? Or?
No, I have an article, but we didn't get to it yet.
The big boxes you see on the train. People are building. Okay, yeah, one of those. So people are actually building houses of those. They stack them up. I actually got a chance to work on a little one in California, a little container home that a friend of mine was building. So you got to get creative. This is actually Frank Gehry's the architect, who's a famous architect out of California, and this is in Prague, I believe, Czech Republic, and this was based off of I think it was a ballet dancer, the movement of a ballet dancer, the flowing skirt and everything. That's where this form came from. The basket house, right? It's actually a real house. This is just contemporary. So this is what I'm talking about. This is how creative you can get with a house. It does not have to look like that. It's okay to make it look like that. This is actually a house too. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
Yeah,
Guy turned it into.
I actually saw a show on Netflix that
Yes,
was like this.
yes,
I
me too.
love that movie.
I watch it all the time too. You guys know this one, right? If you ever get a chance to go to Pennsylvania, I'd recommend visiting it.
Yeah, we want to see that one.
Yeah, it's really cool. You'll notice when you go inside how tiny everything is. Everybody's so used to these big homes, not tall ceiling. This is built custom to a person, to a small person. You walk in, you got built-in furniture. It's tight, low ceiling. It was all about creating spaces for you. Walking in, it's a low head room. You're forced to kind of like, you don't have to duck down. It's high enough that you feel like you got to crouch down, and then you walk into the living room and it just opens up. I mean, it's a really cool feeling when you're walking through that house. Seeing the way the windows were placed to frame in certain areas outside, really cool stuff. Another house, right? I guarantee you'll blow your budget on that one. If you put a budget, this would be 100 times more than what you would think about spending. This is one of my favorite ones. This is one of my favorite architects. He's actually a structural engineer called Santiago Calatrava out of Spain. This is a museum he did in Milwaukee. So if you're ever in Milwaukee, come check it out. It's a modern art museum. And the idea behind those wings, it's a butterfly. It's designed off the wings of a butterfly. And those close and open based on where the sun is during the time of the day. So you could actually, at some point, if you figure out the time, you'll be able to watch it open and close. I heard it beep a lot, but as long as it looks good, it doesn't have to function, right? So if you're ever in Milwaukee, I would recommend, yeah.
I've been to Milwaukee twice, and those twice times, because I think I've heard of the museum. I think I've seen it in the papers walking around.
But you've never seen it in person? Next time you're there, you gotta check it out. And you should walk along that bridge, go right inside there. And then it connects to the left, there's the old museum. This was in addition to the museum. The old museum was actually designed by a famous architect from Finland. So that's it. Be creative. Be creative when you're doing your dream home. I mean, it's about you, right? It's your dream home. You should be able to do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a box. It doesn't have to be a circle. Just whatever you want it to be. Any questions? We've got some questions. There's got to be some questions.
So when you're an architect, when you buy like land so you can build your house, like just an empty space, do you need permission, like town's permission or something?
Oh yeah. So obviously you got to get permits. Yeah, you can't build without a permit. There's if you're starting scratch from open land after you buy it, you have to. It's getting harder and harder because of we're trying to protect. Every time it rains, right, it floods a lot. So now there's rules about when you build a house, it has to be a certain square footage. It could only be, it could only take out 50% of your land. because the rest has to have grass so the rainwater can get into the ground, you know, instead of going on the streets. Yeah, there's a bunch of permits you gotta get. It could be state, it could be from the local building department. We did get a permit for this. There's 2 permits. We gotta get one from the county. We gotta get one from the village, yeah. But that's why you're comparing these, because these are the documents that the local department looks at and says, okay, these are approved. And they look for code issues, you know, they review the code, whether this meets, you know, the widths, your doors are the right size, you got fire alarms in here, you got enough lighting. Yeah, you need that to get a permit, basically, to be allowed to build. Is that a question?
Yeah. The museum, the white thing.
This one?
Yeah, that looks like a boat.
A boat? A sailboat, yeah, it does kind of look like a sailboat. I think if you saw it open and close, you would see that it's represents a butterfly about to take off into the lake. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a fashion starting from scratch. We were like arching. We started last year and to make it had to wait a while.
Oh yeah, yeah. Where's it at?
In here.
Indiana. Yeah, Indiana is pretty difficult with the state. There's a state approval that you need for energy compliance, actually. So, this just to get an idea that the process of this took. We bought this house in May of last year. So yeah, that's probably good to talk about timing. But I did work slow because it's my house. We bought this last year in May. I had the concept done probably by September, October. I submitted to the city in November, and we didn't get a permit till May the following year. So it was a year process just to get something on paper and be allowed to build. And so we started construction in June, and we're not done yet.
My dad like went open his own gym, so he's finally doing it. It took like months and months to get the permit, and now he finally got it, and he's kind of wants to put the ground and all the things off the walls and paint everything.
Where is it at? What town is that in?
It's here. Do you know where the Taekwondo studio is?
On 95th Street? Yeah.
He's renting out that part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got to do it right. I mean, the city's in the in your best interest too, and whatever the homeowner, the business owner, they don't want you to go in there and just paint some walls when you got issues. For example, a restaurant, right? If a restaurant is out of code, and you go in there and you buy it out, you open it up, and something happens, there's a fire, and like I was telling you, the door didn't open out, and you know something happens to the people, you're responsible for the restaurant. So I think as a restaurant owner, it'd be your best interest to bring the house up to the latest code with sprinkler systems, so your customers are safe. And I think the building department, yeah, sometimes they get a little crazy with the approval process, but I think they're looking out for the owner.
Someone I know, they bought a house and they made their dream house. Like they bought an extension. Well,
They put an extension.
yeah, someone I know, they built a huge extension to the house, and then they also built a bathroom, and they built a laundry room, and then they built office, and then they built then they built a living room. It was a huge extension, and then they also built part of the garage.
How long did that take?
That took like a while.
Yeah. No, you got to be patient. You have to be patient when you do this stuff. It's not, you can't just snap your fingers and it's done. How long does it take for most architects? They say that architects are their own worst clients. A lot of architects hire other architects to design their houses for them because, just like in this case, it was never ending. I mean, at some point I had to say, okay, that's it. I mean, you guys are looking at just maybe 10% of the sketches that I did while we were working on this house. I got a computer file that's just filled with options of different floor plans, ideas. So it could take a very long time. At some point, you just got to stop. For clients, usually when we have a client, it's not our own house, and we usually have a deadline, right? I mean, we try to 2 weeks to come up with some designs, a few weeks for permits to produce these drawings, and then, permit may take 2 months. But a building, depending on what you're building, could take, 2 months to 2 years to build. I mean, a lot of times these homes they're building now, they do them real quick. And it's kind of a problem because, as you build a home quickly, it doesn't have time to move. Materials move, you know, the foundation of the building that you just put up will settle, will move. So things in the buildings are gonna start crack. And when they build these homes now so fast, they put the drywall on, and suddenly you have roof leaks, you don't know what's going on. So sometimes the longer it takes, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You give it time to settle. I'd be curious to see everybody's dream home when you guys are done with them.
I know it's like, anybody else have any other
Trent's
questions?
under a lot of pressure to build a dream home, right?
Yeah. He is. He's gonna do fine. They did have some parameters.
I think he wants his own soccer field or something.
Soccer. The plan is here on the side. There's a little area right here in the corner of the lot. That I want to put a turf soccer field. Little mini turf soccer field. That's you know, architecture is not just like my job. It is my passion. I enjoy designing. It's fun to do. And I think soccer is obviously another thing that I love, and that's why I want to incorporate a little turf field on the side.
I do have a question. What is this yellow paper called again?
Well, it's trace paper, but
Trace
in the architect world they call it gumwad paper, and it's just used to trace over. You know, if you come up with a computer, right, and you have a drawing like this, and you want to change something, it's a lot easier if you're sitting around, just throw something and sketch it out.
Do you guys understand how that works? So then this paper, because it's transparent, you can put it over and change your plan.
A lot of times when
That's
you
pretty
meet
cool,
with clients,
right?
You present the original floor plan to the client, and they want to change something. It's really easy to just pop that open, draw over it, and say, oh, okay, this is what you want, instead of.
Or maybe it's not what you want.
Or,
So
yeah.
you don't want to change your whole plan, but you have this temporary feature. Pretty cool, huh? All right.
It's been a fun process, stressful, fun, but.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Banik? Oh,
New student.
okay. Mr. Nichols.
I'm just wondering, when you were younger, about the age of the scholars sitting in here, how important at the time did you think math and learning about symmetry and all these different classes that our scholars are taking now, how important did you feel they were back then?
Very important. Actually, to be honest with you, I thought there would be a lot more math in what I do than there actually is, because there's a difference between, you know, this field could be broken down into a lot of fields. There's structural engineers that get involved. Structural engineers are the ones that on very complicated projects have to figure out, like I was telling you, beam sizes, and that takes a lot of math. Symmetry, shapes. I mean, there's different ways, you know, but why does a triangular roof work better than a flat roof, right? Geometry. So I knew math was important, but I actually in college I was going to minor in math until I got to Calc 3 as an elective. I took it as an optional class, Calc 3, and I almost failed. So that's why I decided maybe math's not my stronghold here, but and it's not needed in architecture. It wasn't needed in architecture that much, but.
So when you were ever building a house, has anything like ever gotten in the way?
Oh, a lot of things, yeah. Like when we, especially this house is a great example because it's very difficult to take an old house and make it new. So in this case, when we started taking off that roof, the outside walls, the brick walls, they started falling off the house. Everything just started coming down. Yeah, because it's 50, 60 years old. So we had to go back and reinforce all that, put steel in there, cement in there to get it ready. So those are like little add-ons that we had plumbing, right? Underground plumbing lines were clogged. We had to rip up the old concrete floor, put all new piping in there. Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah, you'll find out, you know, a dimension might have been off, right? I measured a room, it was 12 feet. When we took off the walls, it turned out it was 13 feet, or it was 11 feet, right? And now that beam that I ordered to span that 12 feet doesn't span 13 feet, so we had to go back and order a different beam, you know?
Do you have a prediction of when the house is going to be done?
We're supposed to move in June, this June, so.
What do you think would be the most difficult way to design and build your house, or if you're a design houses, or restaurants?
What would be most difficult? My house or definitely my house. Definitely my house. By far my house.
It's on the side.
Huh?
Because you're the one who's been in the
Yeah,
city.
yeah, it's very hard to put an end to it. I mean, I could probably, as construction started, I was changing things. I mean, the contractors were mad at me because I kept on changing things. Like this, good example, this door, the original, if you look at the plan, this door was right here, the window was right here. We made a last minute change to make it better. I think it's all for the better.
We were doing a bathroom in our basement. We had to get all new plumbing and everything.
Yeah. And you didn't know about that, it was something probably that just came out, yeah.
What gave you like an idea to build this house?
What gave me an idea to build this house? Good question. Well, for starters, you know, if you look at the old picture compared to the new, the roof lines kind of follow each other. So that mid-century look, I wanted to keep with that new house. Once you start laying out the floor plan and what you need, you know, we knew we wanted 3 bedrooms upstairs. We knew we wanted 2 bathrooms upstairs. The parameters of the outside walls kind of lead you as you keep messing around with these sketches. They kind of lead you to your solution that you were looking for. And like I said, it wasn't our first try. It took a while. So there's certain things that come in. Like I always tell people, I do my best work after midnight. For some reason, I get most creative after midnight. During the day, I can't come up with anything. It's after midnight that I start like my ideas. So it'd be countless nights of just trying different things and trying to go for that look, the contemporary look, the century model look, and not killing the look of the old house. Just little rules that you follow and it kind of leads you to the answer. Yeah.
What inspires you through your work?
What inspires me? Well, first of all, it's my job. It's pays the bills, right? But for as far as the style, there's certain architects that I always followed. You know, your professors in college were your inspiration. There's a couple of local Chicago architects that were pretty famous in this country that kind of did that kind of look. So that's kind of something that sticks in your head and you just fly with it. And you know, I guess the biggest thing that inspires me is I want to make houses look different than they do now. I think there's so much more to designing houses than just. I always tell people, you know, not a lot of people know about architects that you can go out and hire an architect to help you design a house. I think people just think that you hire a contractor and they build a house for you. So a lot of them go online, buy a set of plans, and say, oh, you know, I would like this bedroom here. And I always tell people, like, you're investing $500,000 up to $1 million or whatever in the area there to build a house. You know, wouldn't you want it built around your specific needs? So that's kind of my motivation, is to try to do any house that I do in the area or anywhere. I try to make it a little different.
Go sign it.
What I do?
You didn't do anything.
No, just turn on. You have a budget for your house?
I had a budget for my house. Yeah.
Did you go over your budget?
Oh yes.
With a smile too.
Oh yes. Just to give you an example, budget was $150,000 to build this house. We're going to be over 200. And I didn't even count kitchen cabinets yet.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, it's, you know, for example, like right now, there's these canopies right here. This is what I'm in the process of doing. These canopies right here. I have to still build those, and was going to do it out of just regular wood framing, clad them in aluminum. Then found this company online that actually remanufactures like the canopies that you see on McDonald's. So I'm trying to get a price out of that. That's increasing even more. You know, windows. There's 57 windows in this house. Black trim and tempered, and yeah.
When can you take a field trip?
It's funny.
Yeah, we could.
At the meeting, I was saying it'd be cool. We would get hard hats. I'll get the contractor out there. We'll give you guys a tour. He's a southern guy.
I don't think you guys would want to go on a field trip, would you?
Yes.
All right, scholars, we are 1 minute left of class. Can we give a Mustang welcome and thank you to Mr. Banik right now? And thank him